I've been in debt 3 times in my life, at least the ones I've really tracked. The last one was $48,000. And what changed really had nothing to do with a budget. Although I am going to share with you some key things that you can do. In this video, I'm going to share with you a pivotal piece of shifting your relationship with debt and 4 follow-up items, actions you can take to get you on that trajectory. Before I go down that path, however, I wanted to share with you that what I meant when I said it had nothing to do with the budget, those things help. Tools help, systems help. There's so many things that can help. And what's really underneath all of your challenges with money, I'll just put it in that bucket, is the relationship that you have with money and the story that you're holding about money that you might know bits and pieces of, but maybe you haven't actually sat down and asked yourself, what is the story? What is my money story? What is my default relationship and response to money? Because in that is key insight and data that will support you in being mindful and being aware and being kind and compassionate with yourself, but will support you in the long run because we all have a money story. I don't care how much money you have in the bank. Everyone has a money story. We all have a relationship with this thing that has so much power in this 3D world. And most people are being run by that story unconsciously. And that's why they stay stuck in that continuum, in that hamster wheel, no matter how much money they have. That's why people that win the lottery often go bankrupt, because just because they won all that money doesn't mean that they actually know what to do with that money and how to manage that money. So that's more of that will be in another video. In this video, I want to share with you, like I said, 1 pivotal piece and then 4 follow-up things that you can do that will support you in shifting your relationship with your debt. And the first one is I have my iPad here, so I just have some notes in my Notion. The first thing really is key, and it's going to sound a little simplistic, but just stay with me. And that is you have to decide. You have to decide that you are going to shift this, that you have to make a decision that you want to get out of debt. And I don't mean it like a decision you've made before several times. I'm sure you have some examples in your life where something finally shifted from what you found yourself, like a pattern that you were in, because we all have patterns. That's life. That's part of being in this 3D world. But when things change, it usually is because we made a decision. And sometimes we're forced into that decision. Sometimes we make it very consciously. Sometimes we don't know that we've made it. But typically what precedes something shifting in your life is a decision that you've made. I'm going to shut the window. Sorry about that. So a decision is really, really important. You're having that awareness and that inner choice of like, it's time. And usually what helps a decision being made is that you have a reason. Something happens that supports you making that decision. For me, I actually heard a testimonial that I might share a little bit about if we have time, if I have time. And I knew that I had already made a decision before that. That testimony that I heard that really was kind of gave me a view of the path that it was possible. It made it kind of irrevocably possible. Was before that I was already clear. Like I was just done. I just did not want to be in debt anymore. And there's, like I said, we all have a story. So for me, my story I felt this oppression from the debt. I felt trapped. And I'm not judging debt. Sometimes debt is needed. Sometimes debt is actually strategic. Sometimes it's, there a lot of wealthy people live off of loans. That's a whole other story. The point I'm getting at, though, is that you need to make a decision. And that is the pivotal piece. Until you make a decision, you will just continue to be in that relationship with money and with your debt. And what's really detrimental about that is that then you build more of the story and self-doubt around it. So If you're not ready to make that decision, maybe you want to save this video and come back to it. But if you feel like you're on the cusp or you are already in that journey, then this video is for you. And I encourage you to probably save it and come back to it. Or maybe you want to take a couple of notes, because it's not a complicated steps that I'm going to share with you, but they were the difference maker for me. And the first one really is making a decision. And like I said, having a reason can be helpful. A reason could even look like you're joining your finances with somebody and you really want to clear up your debt, your part. You want to go back to school and you want to get rid of your debt so that you don't have that, you don't have those expenses. You decided you want to look at your wealth quotient and you really want to be focused on that. That could be, the reason. It could just be that you feel like I was sharing how I felt. You just feel trapped, and that is just, you no longer going to tolerate that feeling. Yeah, or I have a note here, an emergency fund. That was also important to me. I got to a point in my life where I'd heard enough about things like that, like an emergency fund, and I was just really clear that I wanted to have that 6 months of life expenses in a savings account that was there for me. And honestly, it served me more than once having an emergency fund. So having a reason and making the decision is job one. You really can't move beyond that. And now I'm going to share with you 4 steps, 4 practices, 4 actions that you can take that will support you on the path. And I encourage you to consider them in this order, but it's, that's totally up to you. And that first one is to list out all of your accounts. And the interest rate. A lot of what is in our way is that we're living in this kind of pretending, not really looking at it. Like if it's just over here, I know I'm making the payments, but you don't really know. And I know for me, for a long time, spending money on things unconsciously was because I had a system. I had a system where I had enough money to pay the bill, but never the balance, right? And then for me, it was often emotional. I wasn't somebody who went on these huge shopping sprees. That's not where I came from. I didn't come from a lot of money, so that was never a practice of mine per se. But I absolutely was spending money and putting on a credit card for things like lipsticks or even clothing or food, from being out and having delicious meals. Even when I was making 6 figures, I had debt. So listing out all of your accounts, become conscious and aware of what are all of my accounts, even the ones that don't have a balance. It'll be really powerful for you to know what are all of your open accounts, your open credit card accounts, and what is the balance on all of them, and what is the interest rate. So many of us don't actually know what the interest rate is, and it can be a little tricky to find actually sometimes on the statement. So if you're somebody who doesn't even get a statement anymore because you get the notification for the bill and you just go in and pay it, you may have to go into the website and download a statement. But if you do get the physical statements and if you go through it, you will find somewhere in the fine print what the current interest rate is for that account. So make a list of all those. I encourage you to put it in an Excel spreadsheet or a note in your notes app, whatever will support you. But become awake and aware of all of your open accounts, what the interest rate is, and what is your balance. The second thing is to start to track your spending. Now, this really is, in my experience, in my opinion, the difference maker of if you are really serious and if you have made a decision. Because if the idea of tracking your spending is where you kind of go, oh, then you're not ready. You haven't made the decision. Because it can feel very tedious. And there are plenty of apps and tools out there that it actually doesn't have to be very labor intensive. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. And that whole practice provides such a powerful opportunity of becoming in conscious relationship with your money, incoming, outgoing, your spending. What's really important is that you start to just observe it as you're in it. Like, don't make yourself wrong. Don't be judging yourself. That's not going to help you stay on your path. If you've made a decision to start to shift your debt, that's powerful. And you need to acknowledge that and give yourself that opportunity to see where you can take this. So tracking your spending is super important, and it really is the game changer. I don't see how, because you start to develop an appreciation and a respect for the money that you are earning, that you are receiving, and it can really also be the foundation for you becoming more in gratitude of this exchange that you are a part of. So it just depends on how you want to look at it, but tracking your spending is key. And I use the Every Dollar app. It's a Dave Ramsey app, and I use the free version. I actually never paid for it because I didn't end up using all the components. You might want to. There's several things in there that could support you. And you can build a budget in it without actually paying for it, without having a membership. I don't even think it's that expensive. But if you're interested in learning more about that and you want me to do a video on that, let me know in the comments and I will absolutely do that. But it was a game changer for me. And you literally just like create a budget, you track what money's coming in, what money's going out, and then every month as you're spending. I initially didn't get into it all the time, so I would hold on to my receipts, and then I would have a time during the week that I would sit down and make sure everything was in there. But you can also always just go to your banking app and see all your spending in that way too. But tracking your spending is super important. And like I said, if that's off-putting, you're not ready to get out of debt, because that will change things for you. It will help you become more aware and awake and appreciate, like I said, but it will also give you sustainable results. It just will change how you relate with your money and your spending. And that's key. Really what you want is a change in behavior, because that's how it will be ongoing. I have not been in that kind of unconscious debt again since I got out of the $48,000 debt. And that $48,000 debt included my car. I paid off my last credit card at the end of 2020, and I paid off my car at the end of 2021. And let me tell you, whew, liberation, okay? The third thing is to start with paying off your smallest balance. Now, a lot of people will tell you to go to your biggest interest rate and pay that one off first. And I have to tell you, I agree with Dave Ramsey, and it works. I would start with your lowest balance. It's really what you're doing is you're closing that exposure. That's how I process it. You're closing the exposure. You're starting with, like, I'm making this up, but let's say it's your Sephora card or your, I was going to say Best Buy, but sometimes those could have lots of electronics. But there's those cards, often department store cards or those smaller credit cards that have a smaller balance. Get those paid off first, because you will start to feel better. You need to have, it's like a psychological impact. You need to have the experience of paying one off. And it's obviously a lot easier to start with the ones that have a lower balance. So that's a third thing I want to encourage you to do. So after you list out all your accounts, then you start tracking your spending, and then you start with that lowest balance card and get it paid off. And you can do all that. You can track all that in the spending app. And then the fourth thing is to find a buddy or a group. Like, find somebody or some group. There's groups everywhere. There's Facebook groups, there's school groups, but you might know some people. You could get some people together. It really helps. Initially, when I started this process, I did actually, with a group of people, part of the Dave Ramsey book. I didn't do all of it because I wasn't looking at buying a home, and there's a whole philosophy and it extends to all parts of your life. And so it didn't all apply to me at the time, but it was helpful. It gave me that foundation and that community to begin that process to shift what was basically life-changing. It's life-changing when you shift your debt relationship, when you basically get out of debt, or anything that you know you want to change. When you change that, you will change your life. And I am not exaggerating. Yes. And now it's like I have a new energy, and I feel like I have a new DNA on life because I just don't feel trapped and I don't feel oppressed, but I also don't relate with money. It doesn't even matter how much money I have coming in. I do not relate to it and use it in the same way. And I was in that other way for most of my life. So those are the main things. The first thing is you need to make a decision. Then that's key. Then make a list of all of your accounts, interest rate and balance. Then track your spending, find an app. Every dollar is one I totally recommend. And then start with paying off your lowest balance and find a group or a buddy. This is the beginning. You can do this. And if you want to hear more about this, or you want to hear more videos about this, let me know in the comments because I would love to support anyone in getting out of debt, but I'm especially encouraged to support women in becoming free from the limitations that money can feel like they have. And they do in physical world reality, but it's also an energetic oppression. And when you have the experience of shifting this, honestly, it doesn't matter how much money you actually have right now. You can shift this. You will start to bring more money in. Everything changes because your vibration, your energy changes with money. I hope this was helpful. I I am a living testimony that it is possible. $48,000 is a lot of debt and it's gone. So I hope this was helpful. Thank you for being with me. I'm Jennifer. I'll see you tomorrow.